Hello and welcome back to another episode. Today you join me really rather early on a Monday morning. It's almost too early to be speaking out loud, if I'm honest. My lovely wife is still asleep upstairs, and in fact she has today off work. So we have lots of plans for the day. But before that, I simply had to fit in a little video sharing with you something I got up to this weekend. This weekend I installed these shelves just here. Now I'm currently sat at the craft desk art zone thing that I installed not that long ago. Although it feels like quite a long time ago because I've been using this space so much since I installed it. It's been a wonderful addition to the house and I love sitting here and making and drawing and creating. It's just perfect. It's exactly what I hoped it would be. But yesterday I reached a sort of moment where I was getting a little bit frustrated. You see, I've been working on my Space Marines, one Space Marine in particular, the one that's sort of setting the colour scheme and the aesthetic that I'm going to be using on my current chapter of Space Marines. And I just came to a pause, came to a moment when I was just a bit frustrated because I was taking the paints in and out of their trays. Basically, I've been keeping the paints in the boxes that they came in, and keeping those boxes here on the desk. And every time I popped a paint in and out of the tray, it kind of made everything sort of jump a little bit on the desk. Only small increments, but when you're dealing with Warhammer and Games Workshop models, small movements are everything. You know, that they make a big difference. And I was getting just a bit irritated, a bit frustrated, and clearly my wife could see this. She was sat just on the sofa doing some crochet, and she looked over and, what's wrong? And I was like, oh, just the paints and the things and the and she was like, oh, okay, well, maybe there's something you can do to fix that problem. She's very good at helping someone get through their trauma, as it were. And I had a bit of a think, and went out to the shed. And then something occurred to me. I looked over to a little tray, a sort of a tea tray or a cutlery tray that I've been using to store screwdrivers in. It's actually far too nice for just keeping some screwdrivers in. But this thing called out to me, and it occurred to me I could use it as shelves on the wall. Now, it's actually perfect for this job, and I don't think I could have made something that's quite so good as this tray for various reasons. First of all, it's really good because it's the right scale to keep my paints on. The older Warhammer paints and the newer ones, they sit quite nicely on the shelf here. Also, the whole thing is slightly concave. It curves away from this space. It curves inwards in the middle, and that's actually subtle, but it feels much nicer than a straight piece of wood straight piece of wood might do if it was just a flat shelf on the wall here. It's a small thing, but it works really nicely. In addition to that, the tall space is perfect for keeping the Citadel files in, along with the PVA glue. And also actually at the top and the bottom, or rather I suppose on the sides of the trays, with two little finger holes on each side for picking up the tray, I guess, out of a drawer or something. But it's perfect for keeping the shears in, so just hung them in there. And it's just a thing of beauty. It works so well, and it was not remotely designed for this purpose. Yet it was destined to go there. I love it, and as soon as this was in place, I could see all the colours, I could easily access them, and painting gained pace. And actually yesterday I finished my first Space Marine, so now I have the colour scheme in place, and I'm so pleased with how he turned out. He's a modest little chap, but this is the first Space Marine I've painted in 16 years, I figured out yesterday. 16 years. And yet I still have it, it seems. I can still paint a Space Marine. I'm very pleased with how this guy turned out. In fact, I am loving this whole Warhammer renaissance that I'm currently experiencing. compared to high school. You know, I mean, back in the day, I knew a couple of people who were like me, who loved to paint, for example, Space Marines, who maybe were a bit shy of learning the game, or didn't want to get it wrong or something like that. Or I had a couple of friends who weren't so hot on painting but loved battling, and they lived in the middle of nowhere, like up on a mountain or something. And you know, when you're a teenager, you don't have access to a car. That's awkward of a weekend. You can't just go and have a battle. Whereas now I know a couple of people who paint and collect and love the battle system, love playing out whole campaigns, and I can easily go and play with them of a weekend. It's brilliant. Also as well, I live around the corner from a wonderful store, Carson's Bazaar. I've mentioned these guys a couple of times, who stock Warhammer. And at the moment, Warhammer itself is going through a real renaissance. You know, Games Workshop's really just knocking it out of the park. For example, they put out this. It's a $4.99 magazine, which for Games Workshop is inexpensive. This publication, and it really does feel like more than just a magazine, really has everything. An introduction to the world of Warhammer 40k, step-by-step instructions as to how to paint your Space Marines and your Plague Marines that come with the First Strike set, the set that I bought specifically to rekindle my love of Warhammer 40k. It has tips on how to make those models really stand out, so some high quality painting tips. It has essentially a catalogue for other models that you can get to expand the Space Marine army, but also the other armies you can get in 40k. There's a battle report, Battle for the Bunker, and you remember when I was talking about White Dwarf magazine how much I loved the battle reports. It goes through that battle and how the battleground and the troops were laid out and how the battle proceeded. But it also gives you everything you need to have your first battle as well. There is a step-by-step readying for war, data sheets, core rules, the battleground, and also taking you through the phases: movement phase, psychic phase, shooting phase, charge phase, fight phase, and morale phase. In other words, this book is precisely what I needed back then. But better late than never. As I say, this is a real renaissance for me and Warhammer 40k. I'm loving it. I also recently invested in this, a magnifying glass lamp. After all, my eyes are not what they used to be when I was a teenager. But also, in all seriousness, at any stage in life, it's okay to have a bit of help seeing these tiny little models. And this magnifying glass is fantastic. It's a two-tone magnifying glass, so two different magnifications, with a nice bendable arm, so you can get the magnifying glass precisely where you need it to be. And crucially, it has a ring light, an LED ring light with a touch switch at the base with 4 different brightnesses. This thing is fantastic and I love it. Yet again, part of this renaissance for Warhammer and for crafting, actually, that I'm experiencing at the moment. It's fantastic, and I simply had to share with you the latest developments in this journey, this wonderful thing that's happening in this corner of the house at the moment. So there you have it, a modest installation that's making a world of difference in this little craft space. I love it, I really do. As ever, guys, thank you for watching, and until next time, do take care. Bye bye.